Previous video, we opened up Toon Boom Harmony Premium for the first time and set up some preferences. As part of those preferences, one of the things I had you set up was focus on mouse enter. And that is to move around these different areas. As you can see, when I move my mouse, it's surrounded in a red rectangle, as you learned in the previous video. Now we're going to talk about these different areas. This first area right here defaults to camera. And in the camera view, you'll see everything that you draw. Down here in the timeline, which we are going to talk about more in a later video, we have different layers. I'm going to put on the first layer, I'm going to put a rectangle. And by the way, you should always name your layers, because if you have a bunch of layers that just say, as you can see here, the word drawing, and they'll say like drawing 1, drawing 2, as you add layers. If you do not rename them, imagine you have 50 layers and you're trying to find a specific layer of maybe, I don't know, a ring on a hand of one of your characters. You need to be able to find it quicker than going, okay, click on this layer, click on that layer, click on this layer. So down here, I'm going to rename it, and we'll talk about this more later. I'm going to name that rectangle. I'm going to go ahead and choose my rectangle tool. We're going to talk about tools in a second. And I'm going to draw a rectangle here, fill it with the red color. Then I'm going to create a new layer. You don't need to know how to do this now. You don't even actually have to follow along at this point, because we're going to come back to it. This is more about the different areas. We're going to focus on the different areas here. So on this circle layer, I'm going to go ahead and change that to green and create a green circle and fill that. Okay, you see these two layers are overlapping. Right now, the circle is opaque, meaning you cannot see through it. And you'll see in a second when I switch to rectangle. Rectangle is actually a little bit transparent. I'm going to switch to the rectangle. The rectangle is opaque, and the green circle here is a little bit transparent. You could see through it. So whatever layer you're on is going to be opaque, and other layers are going to be a little bit transparent when you are in the camera view. Now, the difference between this tab that says camera and this tab that says drawing is when I click on drawing, whatever layer I'm currently on, which down here in the timeline says rectangle, it will show just that drawing. And if I switch to circle, it's going to show just the circle drawing. That is important just in case you want to focus in on drawing on a specific object and not be distracted by everything else on the screen. If I go over to the right here, you'll see that this area defaults to tool properties. Well, it's the properties of tools, and the tools are found all over, but the main tools are on the left side of your screen over here when you are in the workspace that is the default workspace. Again, all of my videos will be in the default workspace. These other workspaces, you could play around with them and see what they do. It just moves things around the screen in different ways. People like it, their workspace differently, and you could actually also save your own workspace if you want. But these are all in default workspaces, and we have the tools on the left here. Any tool you are on, for instance, I am on the paint tool right here, and you'll see paint tool options right here. These are options. We'll talk about options in other videos, of course. If I click on the selection or the select tool here at the top, you'll see that we have the select tool options and so on and so forth, pencil properties, etc. Another tab that they have here is library. Down here in this section, the default is colors, and I'll show you how to add colors or subtract colors, or you could actually live change colors. We'll learn about that when we're talking about colors. And down here on the bottom is your timeline with layers where you draw all of your objects. In any of these areas, you'll notice that to the right of the tabs, we have a plus sign and an X sign, all of these. Tool properties, library, plus sign, X sign. So the X sign will delete this tab, and the access to that will no longer be there, only temporarily. Because what I'll do is I'll click X, I get rid of that drawing tab. Let's say I don't want that ever. I could leave it that way. Maybe it's an accident that I didn't do it, or I want to add something. You go to the plus sign here, and you'll see there's all of these different things, all of these different options, and you could look through those. We're going to look at a couple of those in later tutorials. But if I want to bring that drawing layer back, I just click on the plus sign and click on drawing. I want you to go ahead and just give that quick thing a try. Click on the drawing layer, click the X, and then click on plus and click on drawing. You'll see you'll bring it back. All of these areas have the same exact options. That doesn't necessarily mean that's where things are going to wind up, but we'll talk about that in more detail. So give that a try and then move on to the next tutorial video. Subscribe and like.